Alright, so today I want to introduce you to the Cheetah ball python. The Cheetah is a really flashy combination. It actually consists of 4 genes: the pastel, the yellow belly, the spider, and the leopard. Essentially what it is, it's a bumblebee with the combination of the spider and the pastel, and then you add yellow belly to the bumblebee, and essentially what you get is you get a really bright bumblebee, also known as the bumble belly, which is kind of cool, between the spider, the pastel, and the yellow belly. And then you add leopard to the mix. Essentially what the leopard does is it really darkens the combination and shatters the pattern to where you end up with a snake that is bright yellow with black spots. It looks similar to the cat from Africa, the cheetah. I think that's where it gets its name, the cheetah ball python. So today I want to jump over the internet and I want to show you the potential of the cheetah ball python. Alright, so I want to jump over here on Morphmarket.com and I want to show you how to make a cheetah using the individual genes one at a time, slowly putting them together until we make the cheetah. And then at the end I want to show you some of the challenges of the cheetah, and that is trying to work other genes into the cheetah. Essentially what happens when you work other genes into it, a lot of times you'll lose the intended effect of the cheetah. You'll either lose the yellow color or you'll lose the spots on the side of the snake. So it's kind of one of the limitations. If you're looking for a cheetah looking ball python, the yellow one with the black spots, a lot of times you really can't add many other genes to the mix. And the first gene I want to start with is the pastel. This is one version of the pastel. This is one of the genes in the cheetah. And when people think of pastel, they usually think of a yellow snake. This adds a lot of yellow to a lot of your combinations. And the pastels can really vary from one to the other. Sometimes they can be really super bright yellow, and sometimes they can be kind of a browned out yellow. As a matter of fact, I actually produced a pastel in my collection this year, which was kind of a rusty brown colored pastel. As a matter of fact, I actually named that snake Rusty. It was kind of an interesting version of pastel, and some of them can be really super bright, and I'd say this is probably one of the brighter ones that I've actually seen. And with a lot of your pastels, you actually see a change in your patterns. Sometimes it can be really scrambled up, and sometimes, like in this case, you see almost like tiger stripes in certain parts of the snake. And in some pastels, I've actually seen some that have patterns that look almost like the normal wild type ball python. So it's really not considered a pattern enhancing gene per se, but in a lot of combinations, it'll actually really scramble up the pattern. So if you actually take pastel, which is a yellow snake, and you want to make it even brighter, you can actually add yellow belly to the mix. This is what a yellow belly looks like. And both the pastel and the yellow belly are 2 genes in the cheetah. And when it comes to sleeper morphs, I'd say yellow belly is probably the king. As a standalone morph, it looks almost like a normal. As a matter of fact, I actually see it in a lot of snakes kind of side by side with the yellow belly and a normal. And even for me, in a lot of cases, it's really hard to tell the 2 apart. Some people will say that in some cases, the yellow belly is maybe a little bit brighter if you compare it to a normal, but I've actually seen quite a bit of variability in normals from one to the other. I've actually produced some really dark normals and some really bright normals. I don't know if you can actually count on that, but in a lot of cases with the yellow belly, not all the time, but in some cases, you'll actually get this flaming that comes up the side. You can see a little bit of flaming right between the pattern here. It's usually right on the bottom, on the black, right in between the patterns. Not much flaming on this. I've seen a lot of yellow bellies with almost no flaming, but in some yellow bellies, it's pretty obvious. Almost every single black spot right along the belly has some really intense flaming. Usually it's like a bright orange flaming. You can definitely tell on some yellow bellies. And pretty much the surefire way to tell if you have a yellow belly or not is to actually flip the snake over and look at the belly. In a lot of cases, the yellow belly will actually have like a really busy pattern on either side of the belly, almost like a black checkering. Sometimes even all along the belly, in the middle of the belly, it'll have some black checkering. That is usually the sure sign that you have a yellow belly. As a matter of fact, you actually look over here at yellow bellies, and a lot of people will flip over part of the snake and show you the bottom of the snake, saying, yes, this is definitely a yellow belly. So if you actually take yellow belly and combine it with pastel, take a look at what you get. You get this crazy look and say, look at what the yellow belly does to the pastel. It really brightens and enhances it. And if you actually add other brightening genes to this, like Orange Dream or Fire, you get some really bright and flashy combinations. And kind of the interesting thing is I've actually produced some pastels in my collection that look almost like this, and I've actually produced some normals that almost look like yellow bellies. I'm pretty sure I have yellow belly floating around my collection. And when I produce a snake like this, I actually sell it just as a pastel, not necessarily a pastel yellow belly. So if you're actually producing a lot of pastels and every now and then you get a really bright one, you may actually have yellow belly in your collection kind of floating around in the background. And it can be kind of a pro and kind of a con if you actually have yellow belly and you don't expect it. If you breed two yellow bellies together, 25% of the time you get an ivory, which is an all-white snake, and the all-white snake will mask all the other genes in your combination. So a lot of times people kind of stay away from the ivories or breeding two yellow bellies together, especially if you have really expensive multi-gene snakes and you want to see all the individual genes in all of your offspring. So here is another gene in the cheetah, and that is the spider. And the spider by itself is pretty amazing. It's really visually stunning. I'd say it's probably one of the goldest ball python genes in all of ball pythons. Probably the spider and the pinstripe are two of the brightest gold genes. Pretty amazing. And the spider essentially gets its name from this kind of a spiderweb pattern right down the top of the snake. And a lot of times the spider will have almost like a calico look on the side coming up on the belly. And a lot of times you'll actually see really crazy head patterns on a lot of your spiders. So here's what happens if you actually take spider and work in the pastel yellow belly. Take a look at this crazy snake. This is probably one of my favorite spider combinations. This is actually a bumble belly. This is the combination of the spider, the pastel, and the yellow belly. And essentially what it is, you can actually make one that looks like this with the spider and the pastel, which is called the bumblebee, although it's usually not as bright as this. When you add the yellow belly to the bumblebee, you get a really super bright bumble belly. Pretty amazing combination. And these aren't really that expensive. These are usually fairly inexpensive. This one's sold for $175. Pretty amazing for such a flashy thing. So take a look at this. This is actually the leopard. This is the other gene in the cheetah. So this is the last gene we want to add. So essentially what it is the cheetah is a leopard bumble belly. So you add this to the bumble belly. And the leopards is kind of interesting. It's actually a dark gene. It really darkens a lot of your combinations. And a lot of times the leopard will actually really scramble up the pattern in your combinations. The leopard's considered a really strong pattern enhancing gene, especially if you work past leopard with pastel. It seems like those two genes working together can really explode the pattern. So here's what happens if you take the leopard and you work it into the bumble belly. This is what you get. You get the cheetah. Take a look at this. This is a pretty amazing combination. And I actually pulled up another version of this. I kind of wanted to show you this first. So if you actually look at the cheetah on the side, it actually has these little spots that look pretty much like a cheetah, the yellow color with these little black circles all through the snake. But if you actually look at the top ridge, you really can't see it in this one. All along the top of the ridge of the snake, you actually still have a really thin line from the spider. So it really depends on the angle that you're looking at. From this angle, it looks like the cat, the cheetah, which is pretty crazy. But I actually pulled up another one over here. Take a look at this. This is another one. This is another cheetah, the leopard bumble belly. And in this case, you can see it actually it has this line right on top. You can definitely see a really strong line, but you can still see all the little black spots all along the side of the snake. Pretty amazing combination. So take a look at this. This is actually a leopard ivory bumblebee. So this is kind of one of the cautions when you're working with the cheetahs. So you don't really want to take a cheetah and breed it to anything that contains yellow belly, because essentially what you'll get is you'll get an ivory. This is essentially what this is. This is an ivory. And it's kind of interesting too, because the only gene that can really break through an ivory is leopard. I'm actually kind of surprised on this one that the leopard's not breaking through the ivory. Usually you have a little faint color coming through, just a little faint color and pattern from the leopard. And a lot of times the leopard will actually bring through the other genes. So a lot of times if you have an ivory with leopard, you'll see the ivory leopard, and then you'll see kind of the spider and the pastel actually breaking through. So this is kind of interesting. It doesn't always bring it through, but I'd say in a lot of cases, the leopard will actually bring the color through the ivory, which is pretty interesting. So here's the last one I wanted to show you, the clown mixed in with the cheetah. It's probably the only thing you can really do to get almost kind of a pseudo cheetah looking snake. A lot of times you actually add other genes into the cheetah and you pretty much lose the visual effect of the cheetah. The clown's a little bit difficult because it's actually a recessive gene. So essentially what you'd have to do is you have to breed the cheetah to the clown and then get a cheetah het clown and then breed that to another het clown or visual clown to actually make the cheetah clown. I actually pulled one up over here and this is pretty close to, you can definitely tell on this one you kind of lose the visual effect of the cheetah even working the clown. As a matter of fact, this one actually has Enchi in the mix. So this is a clown Enchi cheetah, essentially what it is. And it's kind of amazing. I didn't really find a whole lot of combinations over here with the cheetah mix, but it seems like in most cases when you actually work other genes in with the cheetah, you pretty much lose the yellow color or the spots in the combinations. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Jordan Scarborough asks, at a reptile show, are prices cheaper or more expensive than Morphmarket? And that is a very good question. As a matter of fact, I've actually seen a lot of reptile shows advertise that they have cheaper snakes than anywhere else that you can actually find them. And it's kind of interesting they advertise cheaper snakes because essentially what that comes down to is that it rolls down to the seller. So if I'm selling at the reptile show, I'm like, hey, they're telling everybody that my snakes are cheaper than anywhere else, which is, it's kind of interesting that they do that. And I'd say in most cases, if you actually look at Morphmarket and look at the prices at the shows, the prices are either equal to what you'd find on Morphmarket or usually a little bit less expensive, especially for some of your lower end stuff. So if you're looking for like a normal ball python, I say you go to a reptile show, and if, say for example, normals are selling for $50, you actually, if you buy them on Morphmarket, a lot of times it's $50 plus you're also paying anywhere from $50 to $70 for shipping. So now you're over $100 just for a normal. So some of your really low end stuff, I'd say you want to pick them up at the reptile shows for the best deal. As a matter of fact, a lot of reptile shows, I've actually seen some normals sell for like $20 or $30, which is kind of crazy. You know, it's probably the big advantage of getting lower end or less expensive snakes at the reptile shows. And when it comes to kind of higher end stuff, it really depends on exactly what it is. If it's a rare combination, sometimes it can be equal to what you'd find on Morphmarket, and in some cases you'll actually find stuff at reptile shows that you can't even find on Morphmarket, which is kind of an advantage, especially if it's a really hot gene or a really popular combination and everyone's looking for it. Sometimes you can actually kind of bump up the price a little bit because you find it at the reptile show and it's not available on Morphmarket, so sometimes it can be a little more expensive. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.